What's up, everybody? Welcome back to episode 2 of our Take 4 show. All right, we're going to do some introductions, make sure that everybody knows who is who and who is on this panel today. We've got Mikey from the Big Screen Breakdown. What's up, Mikey?
How's it going?
Andre from the Formal Review.
What's up?
Looking sharp as always, Mr. Formal. And Ryan from Life of Films joining us from across the pond. What's up, Ryan?
Yo.
Ryan didn't get the memo that this is actually a Star Wars episode today.
I know.
He's wearing a
I
Superman
know.
shirt. That was last month, bro.
I'm rubbish. I'm actually really rubbish with printed t-shirts. I'm a bit of a plain Jane.
Ryan is probably just he's dealing with the news that the director's cut that's going to come out for Justice League is going to be a Whedon cut.
Oh.
Just mourning the loss. I'm sorry, Ryan. Well, all of our YouTube viewers, I'm Andre with the Backseat Directors podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. We have got an excellent episode for you guys today, and it's going to be one that's going to get all of you ready for the new Star Wars movie that's coming out this week, so The Last Jedi. Before we really get into the meat of our discussion, though, I want to know your guys' background on how you guys got introduced to Star Wars and how you fell in love with Star Wars. So, Ryan, why don't you go first? So tell us. Do you remember how you were first introduced to Star Wars?
Yeah. So my mum and my brother loved it. So I was too young. So I was to ever see that in cinema. They all came out before I was even born. But I remember my mum used to buy loads of VHSs, and we used to have the Star Wars VHSs, and I can remember them.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know where they are. They'll be knocking about somewhere. But yeah, I had those, and there's just an image of always watching those, and then being really long. Like films they were quite long. Compared to like Disney films and stuff like that, I used to watch it. That's why I remember thinking oh, have we got enough time to watch Star Wars? 'Cause it's really long, but yeah, that's when I was introduced to it, just through family, really.
Yeah. Well, when did you fall in love with it? Was there like a certain movie or like a certain moment where you're like, oh my gosh, this is it? I love Star Wars.
Actually, and I really fell in love. So I grew up kind of just knowing Star Wars and knowing that I loved it and liked it and stuff. It was just kind of something that was just in my DNA because I was brought up on it. My brother loved it and my mum loved it and stuff. But the moment when I knew that I loved Star Wars, and this is why I look at the prequels so fondly, is you guys probably remember, is I remember going to see episode 1, and in the first scene where Qui-Gon Jinn puts his lightsaber through the door, when right at the very first 2 scenes, when they lock Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon in, and then they play, and then he puts his lightsaber through it, and then it starts playing John Williams' theme.
Oh my gosh.
And then I remember that as a kid, and I was like, oh my god, I love it so much. And that was my thing, where I was like, yes.
Yeah, I see all of us nodding our heads right now. I think all of us had a similar experience when
good.
seeing that for the first time, just going, oh my gosh. Something you always wanted to see in like the original Star Wars and like them use their lightsabers, but they just never were able to capture that.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, Formal, what about you, man? How were you introduced to Star Wars and when did you fall in love with it?
Well, when I was sometime before 10, I guess I had a VHS copy. I don't remember exactly how I got it, but my parents were very like anti-violent and action movies.
Ooh,
so
yeah.
I had this. They had it. I don't remember the reason why, but I watched it. The first time I watched it, I couldn't make it through because Darth Vader scared the crap out of me. I was scared. I legit didn't watch it for at least 2 more years.
Wow, really? Dang, okay.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly the age, but I watched it and Darth Vader scared me. So that's how I was introduced to it. But then I tried it again later on, and then I loved it. Then started to watch like the originals, and then when the prequels were coming out, I wasn't as sneaky, and my dad was very anti me watching it, so I couldn't see episode 1 in the theaters.
Oh no! Oh snap!
Yeah, I didn't see that, and same thing with episode 2. But well, actually no, I take that back. In episode 2, I had to see it like months later, or at least not months, maybe weeks later, not when it first came out, because similarly, my dad was very anti like violent movies. So what I did was get around it. It's like he made a deal with me or something, and I read the book that was basically just the writing of the movie, so I wouldn't be too scared of it, I guess. So, and I got through that, and I showed him that I read it, and he let me go see it. And then with episode 3, I didn't see it opening weekend, but all my friends did. And I think that was the last movie that I didn't see when midnight showings were a thing.
Yeah.
That was like the last one before I started, because all my friends did it midnight showing. I was like, well, I got to start doing this now.
Yeah,
but
no, I had a similar deal with my dad with a movie, but it wasn't Star Wars, but very similar to that. All right, Mikey, what's yours, man?
All right. So when I was a kid, I have 2 older brothers, and closest in age is 6 years older than me. So they had grown up with Star Wars more with the original trilogy. So when I was a kid, they showed me that on the old VHS tapes, just like you guys. And I didn't. It's funny because just like you, Ryan, I smile on the prequels. Like I don't have a huge problem with them. They have their issues, whatever. But I didn't fall in love with Star Wars until that last fight of Episode 1, when Darth Maul takes out that. You see that double-sided lightsaber for the first time. That was me in the theater, just like, oh my, that was it. It was like, oh, Star Wars. This is my favorite thing ever.
Do you guys remember seeing when they showed the trailer and showed Darth Maul igniting his double lightsaber in the trailer? Yeah. Do you remember seeing that?
No, I don't, because
you got it in the movie. You didn't even see it.
I got it in.
Oh my gosh!
I was 8 years old. No, yeah, I was 8 years old when that came out, so I didn't watch trailers or anything like that. My brothers took me to go see it.
That was back in the day, though, where like the only way you saw trailers was going to see films.
Right.
Like, you didn't have the internet. You know what I mean? So like that was
YouTube
actually a time where.
Yeah,
exactly. So that's the way you actually went to go and like get to a film before like people like rock up during the trailers and stuff. Now it was all like, oh, you can't miss the trailers, but now it's not really a big deal.
Yeah, see, with the Phantom Menace though, the Phantom Menace was where online trailers began. That was how it ignited the popularity of releasing things on the internet, and the Phantom Menace is what the original trailer that broke the internet was, the Phantom Menace. And so I remember seeing that in the trailer.
Imagine.
But no, so we all had pretty similar experiences. But so since I am the geriatric of this group right now, being the oldest, I still was not quite old enough to see, the originals in theaters. I wasn't even born when the Return of the Jedi had come out, but I was old enough to see the special edition trilogy come out in theaters. So, I was probably 5 the first time I saw Star Wars. I remember sitting down like watching it with my parents, but my love of it kind of slowly grew throughout my childhood, and I got the toys and I started watching it. And I remember like Return of the Jedi was always my favorite because I loved the space battle scenes. And so as a kid, those were the things that really captivated me. But the moment I fell in love was when I saw the special editions in theater. And so I went opening night. I remember back January 1997. I was 12. 1997 January. Yeah, I would have been 12. So I remember going with just a family friend. He took me to go with his group of friends. We waited in line for hours and hours and hours because you could get a ticket, but that didn't guarantee you a good seat. So we were waiting there. Mm-hmm. The local news came, interviewed us like on the local news. But I remember, I had the specific memories when we got into the theater, the lights go down, and you start hearing the 20th Century Fox drums play,
Oh, I missed that. I missed that.
And then it goes quiet. And then it does, a long time ago into the galaxy far away, far away, and people start clapping, and I'm like, what is going on? And the moment Star Wars goes big on screen and you hear the John Williams score, the Star Wars theme, and people are standing up screaming and clapping and cheering, I had never experienced anything like that in my life. I was blown away. And so right then and there, I knew, I was like, oh my gosh, Star Wars is magical. There is something about Star Wars that resonates with like everybody on the planet that no other movie has been able to do ever. And so that experience was something that I will remember for the rest of my life. And from then on, I was like, oh my gosh, Star Wars is the greatest thing ever. Okay, so gentlemen, we have reached. We're gonna discuss now the main portion of today's episode, though, and that is going to be our original trilogy versus prequel trilogy. And I really think that we're going to have some good discussion just because just of our age differences. You know, so you guys did grow up with the prequel trilogy, and I was already in love with Star Wars before the prequels came out, and so. Yeah, so my opinion is going to probably be a little bit different than your guys's, but let's see what we got. All right, so let's start off. I want everybody to name their favorite movie from each of the trilogies. Okay, so starting with the original trilogy, Mikey, what is your favorite of those three?
It's got to be Empire. I mean, are we going rapid fire? Or do you want me to?
Yeah,
say,
no,
like, why,
Empire. All right, Andre.
Empire.
Empire as well.
Ryan.
Return.
Ooh. Yeah, see, I Return of the Jedi it's like 1B for me, but Empire Strikes Back, I've learned to appreciate that movie so much more than any of the other Star Wars movies, but yeah, mine is Empire. Okay, so let's do the prequel trilogy. Ryan, you go first.
Attack of the Clones.
No.
Psych.
Oh.
Mikey may have chopped my head off like Jar Jar in his t-shirt. No, I think it's Revenge of the Sith. I think I'll be shocked if anyone else says anything otherwise.
Yeah. Well, then you're going to get shocked. All right, Mikey, let's go.
I mean, yeah, Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith.
Andre?
That's what.
Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah, so mine, and for a couple different reasons, we don't have to get into it right now, but it's The Phantom Menace. The Phantom Menace is my favorite of the prequels. Yeah.
I mean, I can understand it.
Yeah, I can get it.
And Mikey, just like you said, man, it's just, that final battle, man, that final scene. They're unlike anything in Star Wars that we've ever seen. So good.
Exactly.
Okay, let's do our least favorite. So I'll go ahead and start off. So least favorite of the original trilogy. So for me, it's hard to pick because I love all three, but the one that I probably watched the least though is the original, A New Hope. But that doesn't mean that I don't like it. It just means it's the one I watch least. All right, Mikey, what about you?
Same.
New Hope.
I mean, it's not. None of them are bad at all. It's just that it's the worst of the best, I guess. If I had to pick one, it would have to be just the original, just because I like seeing our characters more developed. So, the original.
Ryan, what about you?
Yeah, the original, A New Hope.
Yeah. Formal?
I would have to say Return.
Ooh.
Again, similar to you guys, it's not that I dislike the film. It's more of just, if I had to pick one, that one, I would say I would watch third. I don't know.
Yeah,
cool.
Dude. Hey,
order,
but that's the thing, man. This is like it's like I only ask this question because I want to know probably which is like the one you guys are watching least, but it doesn't mean like you don't like it at all. Man, because I love
all things Star Wars.
Yes, absolutely. But now, see, this is where the question, though, it probably fits a little bit more. Is which is your least favorite of the prequels, though?
Who we going with?
Yeah, go ahead, Formal. You go first.
Attack of the Clones. So cheesy on the dialogue.
I'll second that. Cosign.
Yeah.
Attack of the Clones.
Yeah, it's mine as well. Ryan, you too.
Yeah, it's even like Obi-Wan looks his worst in that, doesn't he?
Yeah.
But there's some good moments. I mean, as bad as that movie is,
there are.
That the little space chase between the Fets and Obi-Wan Kenobi through the asteroids and stuff. There's some cool parts about it, but it's it's pretty bad in my opinion.
You mean you guys don't like frolicking in the meadow?
I mean,
in your Star Wars movies?
Personal life, sure, but not in Star Wars.
That's got to have one of the most iconic lines though in all of the prequels. Is I hate sand.
I don't like sand.
It gets everywhere.
Don't like sand.
It gets everywhere.
Oh God.
Okay. So wait, I did want to ask you guys this. I don't think I wrote it in the outline, but do you guys have a favorite moment from? Let's just do the original trilogy. What is your favorite moment in each of the 3 movies? Mikey, why don't you go first?
All right. Favorite moment has to come at the end of Return of the Jedi when Palpatine's telling Luke to strike Vader down, take your father's place at my side, and he throws his lightsaber away and says, "No, you failed, blah blah blah. I'm a Jedi like my father before me." Like, come on. How's that?
Yeah,
It's Luke
that's good.
passing the test. He's
Yeah.
not going to the dark side.
Oh my god.
Yeah, so
Okay,
good.
what about the other 2? Favorite moment in the other 2? A New Hope and Empire.
Okay, all right. A New Hope, I'd say my favorite moment, aside from blowing up the Death Star, because that's the finale. But my favorite moment is Han's conversation over the comlink with the Imperials, and he shoots boring conversation anyway, like when they're trying to break out Princess Leia. It's hilarious. It's classic. And then favorite moment from Empire would be Yoda raising the X-wing out of the swamp on Dagobah.
Ooh, yes.
And then the following line where Luke says, "I don't believe it," and then Yoda hits him with, "That's why you failed."
Oh,
and that's
my
just
gosh.
like, yeah, man.
All right, Formal,
Star
what
Wars.
about you? Your turn. Go ahead.
With A New Hope, it's hard. The thing is that I like so many moments, but one of my favorite moments is when they first rescue Leia, and she just the entire talk back that she does the entire time that she's starting off with, "Aren't you a little short?" I don't know, I just love that whole thing, how snarky Leia is in comparison to you think that this is just gonna be. Uh-oh.
Man down. I'm good. We're good.
Yeah, keep going, Formal. Keep going.
Yeah, my bad.
Yeah, just you think it's gonna be this whole, just these 2 guys just saving the princess, a typical hero story, but then she's just this is the best that could save me, and I love that whole thing.
Yeah.
With Empire, you got obviously the "I am your father."
Spoiler alert!
Oh.
Just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding, man. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. There's that obviously, but I think a second, just for me, how a big surprise is the whole, at least for me it was the whole "No, there is another," when when Yoda reveals,
when Luke's leaving the swamp, yeah.
Yeah, I love that bit. And then I would say in that, and also the "I love you" stuff, that's also my favorite part of that movie. Anyway, with Jedi, I would go with I don't know, the whole fight over Jabba, that how that just how that all laid out. It was just planned out so well, and I love that scene.
Yeah, that one's good. All right, Ryan, let's hear yours.
Okay, so from A New Hope, I think the not the fight itself, because the fight itself's a bit weak, but the "strike me down, I'll become more powerful than you'd ever imagine."
Mm-hmm.
That was, and then Obi-Wan, spoiler alert, getting it, because I think from a kind of learning about the Force kind of point of view, that's quite a impactful moment in regards to education about what the Force is all about. So yes, that's good. In Empire Strikes Back, I'm going to be the one to say it, but I Am Your Father is just unbelievable.
Dude, it's one of the greatest cinematic moments in film history.
Yeah. It really is. It's just unbelievable. And then in Return of the Jedi, I love the scene because Andre, I love my scores. When Luke is burning Vader, and he's just stood there watching, and he's burning, and then you've got the slower version of the Force theme, which actually isn't on any of the albums, but you can actually get a version of it on YouTube, which I listen to all the time, but I can't get it on Spotify or anything, and you can't buy the discs. But version of it is just like one of my favourite versions of Force Feed, when you see him stood there watching his father just burn, and it's just the cinematography of it, everything is unbelievable.
Yeah.
What about you, Andre?
Yeah, so my favorites in the first two, it revolves around the Force, and so for me, the thing that I love most about Star Wars is this mythology and the mystique of the Force. And so in A New Hope, my favorite moment and line is when Luke is in the trench run and he's using his targeting computer and he hears Obi-Wan and he says, "Use the Force, Luke." But he doesn't listen, and then he says again, "Let go, Luke." Oh, that moment right there. I love that. Love it, love it, love it. In The Empire Strikes Back, and this is probably why The Empire Strikes Back is my favorite movie, is it's the entire encounter of Luke and Yoda and what Yoda teaches Luke about the Force. Specifically when he's talking about, he's like, the Force is, it exists between us, between you, the rock, the tree, and he goes into all the mythology of what the Force is, and that is my favorite moment of the movie. Yes, and it binds us, yeah. And then in Return of the Jedi, my favorite moment is in the throne room when Luke is hiding from Darth Vader, and it shows him his, the split face with the dark and the light side, and Vader's talking to him, and he says, "Oh, sister, so you have a sister." And he provokes him, though, to the point where if you won't join the dark side, then maybe she will. And that was like, it was like the straw that broke the camel's back for Luke. And he's like, "No, I'm not having any of this." That is my favorite moment from that movie. But, guys, you guys are making my heart pound, man. I freaking love this movie so much.
Seriously.
Okay, let's keep going with what we got on the outline. All right, so we're gonna do. So I guess that kind of was already part of the outline. I should have kept looking this over, but okay. So I guess we already kind of talked about best moment, best line. What about best fight scene? You guys have a best fight scene, and this is going to be a head-to-head competition, all right? So best fight scene versus in the original versus best fight scene in the prequel. Andre Formal, why don't you go first?
I think when it comes to actual lightsaber scenes, like I think that the is the one in Empire when Luke is inexperienced and fighting up against his father. But then in the prequels, I would say the scene between Obi-Wan and Anakin at the end of it. It's yeah. I mean, I just watched this like, I don't know, 2 nights ago, and it's still like, that's still one of my favorite parts of that movie. Is just like how intense it is and how honestly hellish it is for the both of them. It's great.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Ryan, why don't you go first? Or second, I mean. Yeah.
So to be honest, I think that the best fight scene for me personally is going to be in Return of the Jedi, which is one of the main reasons why I said it's my favourite out of the originals. I think that it really started to find its own a little bit in that one. You can see the progression through each film in the fight scenes. In that one, you really see them move quite a bit more and stuff. And it's good. But personally, that's another reason why I'm so fond of the prequels, because the fighting is taken to a completely next level in those. And then in Revenge of the Sith, that like the fight scene at the end of that is just, oh my god! Because as much as I love the freeway fight in Phantom Menace, there's just so much more weight to the Revenge of the Sith fight. So there's so much more drama to it, and like they're brothers and stuff pretty much. So it's just like, for that, and also the fight scene itself is unbelievable.
So which would be your favorite fight scene then out of all 6?
It would be the Revenge of the Sith.
Same with you, Formal?
Yeah. Leaning, a little bit toward it, yeah.
Okay, all right, Mikey, you're up.
All right, well, it's going to be boring now because they've said it, but I'm going to go just like Ryan. I'm going to go Return of the Jedi and Revenge of the Sith for what both of those fights represent. Luke's pull to the dark side and back to the light side, and then Anakin's downfall to the dark side, and Obi-Wan trying to pull him back out, and just the emotion and obviously the scores that are going along. Right when Luke snaps, that breaking point that you talked about, when you hear the score, the music that's playing while he's like just hacking at Vader, it's like, oh, it's beautiful. And then also that the score when Obi-Wan and Anakin are fighting, it's just, the music obviously makes these movies that much better. But just the stakes that are at hand with those fights are what make them my favorite. And for the same reason that Revenge of the Sith fight would be my favorite, is just you're seeing these guys at their prime. You know, this is the best that they're ever gonna be. And they're attacking, or they're going at each other, and then you see them 20 years later on the Death Star just kind of poking each other with the sticks. It's just, it can't compare. So just seeing them in their prime and all the stuff that they do in that fight, it's incredible.
Man, so. 3 for 3 on Revenge of the Sith. So, but I agree. I think the weight of that fight scene in Revenge of the Sith is probably the weightiest fight scene in the prequel trilogy. But my favorite fight scene in the prequels is from the Phantom Menace. And then my favorite one in the originals would be Empire Strikes Back, when Luke confronts Vader. And it's just everything about the scene, though. It's not necessarily the fighting itself, but it's how the scenes were shot, the lighting and everything, and just the small dialogue between Vader and Luke, and how Vader's totally just dominating Luke, and Luke is just out of his
toying
element.
with him. He's one hand.
Yes. Oh, yeah. I love that scene so much. I think I would have to give that one my favorite, and everything that goes into play throughout that entire scene, and how it culminates at the end, Luke and his hand cut off, everything. Oh, that one's my favorite. So, okay, yeah. Ryan, just
to throw out thing, I was going to say, for our one thing, is just because I don't feel like this film is going to be mentioned in any Star Wars conversation we have or ever have, is that the Vader scene at the end of Rogue One is probably one of my favorite scenes.
Oh, yeah.
And I feel like that's going to miss out. So just that's like we're talking prequels versus originals, but that is just that just blew my freaking mind. That's my favorite
scene with Vader in it.
That it's so intense. I watched that last night, and that it's so great. How it made me love Vader again, because obviously the last thing that sticks in my mind from the prequels is the no moment, that lovely moment. So that made Darth Vader scary again. So
I remember watching that in theaters, and you hear the alarms going off, and you see the rebels in the hallway, and it looks just like A New Hope, because it's kind of the same shit. And then you hear his breathing first. And then the lightsaber ignites, and I was like, oh, they're going to cut it right here. That's kind of cool. And then, nope, he keeps going, and he's just taking names. He throws a dude up to the ceiling with the Force, and then, didn't forget about him, chops him behind his back.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that one's a good one. That one's a really, really good one. So, Mikey, you said that was your favorite, though? That's
my favorite scene with Vader in it. Oh, yeah. Seeing, because you I mean, I don't know if you guys do, but, I read the books and the comics and all that stuff, so just Vader's supposed to be the baddest dude in the galaxy, because nobody knows that the Emperor is a Sith Lord. So Vader's supposed to be that ultimate evil, and you never really saw that in the original trilogy, because they couldn't do it back then. He's just a big dude in a suit just lumbering around, and the most athletic thing he ever did was that jump in Empire when Luke falls down the steps and he's like, rah! So when you actually see him just clear a room, it's like, woo, there's Vader. There he is.
But also, I think what's so great as well is that in Rogue One, they talk about the Jedi and they talk about the Force in kind of legend. Does that make sense? It's you never see anyone use the Force, and the Jedi is kind of not different stuff. So you see, then there is actually a Jedi Sith,
right? Yeah, because the Jedi and the Force had already faded away into the pages of history. It was already, they were myths. Yeah. No,
so he's just this one person, that's got this thing, and it's just makes him just seem that much more legendary. Because in the prequels and stuff, there's so many people like Jedis and stuff like that, but this is just he's the only one. Luke can't even do it. Do you know what I mean? He's the only one in the whole galaxy that you're going to come up against, and you have got no chance.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
Do you guys read any of the books at all?
No.
Comics, yes. Books, no.
Okay, well, if you guys want to read a book about what the galaxy saw Vader as, you read, it's called Lords of the Sith. It's right after Vader became Vader. In the suit. It's a really good book.
Is it canon?
Highly recommend it.
Is it canon or is it Legends?
Canon. No, it's canon. It is canon. It came out with the new line of canon novels.
Hey,
Lords of the
you
Sith.
gotta make the distinction. You do.
Okay, well, the book is officially canon, and if you guys could listen to it on an audiobook, they do the voices, they do the sound effects. It's even
Really?
better. So,
Oh, that sounds awesome.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, that sounds
cool.
good.
I'll be on
that
that.
sounds good. Yeah. Okay, you guys, for time restraint and just looking at what we have left on this outline, we're going to skip a few parts, all right? So let's get into one of the more fun discussions, all right? And this is going to be open discussion, all right? Which love story is better, Han and Leia or Anakin and Padme?
I'll go first. I want to go first. I'm thinking
I didn't say which relationship was the most healthy. I just said which one was better.
Well, I'm throwing out a curveball here, Andre. I'm going to say neither.
Ooh.
There's a secret love relationship that I feel like you haven't put in there, which I'm going for.
R2 and
R2
C3PO.
and C3PO.
Oh my gosh.
I knew it.
He's got the best one. It transcends through all 6 films.
Mm-hmm.
All right, man. All right. Look. You know what I meant by the question, okay?
I got a legitimate answer.
Let's hear it, Mikey.
All right, I'm actually gonna go with Anakin and Padme, not because what they actually had them say was good, but what just from pretend you didn't hear anything about, you've never heard any of their dialogue, okay? Think about this guy who's a Jedi who's supposed to be, selfless and all that stuff that the Jedi are supposed to be, and his secret love, and all he wants is to protect her because he lost his mom. All he wants. I love Vader's story because it's so tragic that all he wants to do is protect the people that he loves, but he can't, and he keeps messing it up because he's being played by Palpatine this whole time. And so the things that he does for that love, like you think about it, like this guy has literally killed children because he thinks that he needs this dark side in him to save her. He's doing all this for her. And then he gets corrupted by the power at the end when he's like, oh yeah, he ends up force choking her. But the initial reason he was doing all that stuff is because he needed to be strong enough to the dark side to save his wife. And it's a tragic, but it's an amazing love story when you think about it. So that's why Han and Leia just fell in love.
Yeah,
There was nothing else about
exactly
their love. So that's
exactly.
I mean,
no, I agree. That's what my answer is. To cut it short, I would have said those exact words. 100% Mikey.
I like Star Wars.
Formal Naya we're just have our jaw drops right now.
I mean, tell me why I'm wrong, guys. Come on, I want to hear it.
Oh man, where do I even begin?
This video is only going to be half an hour.
Okay, there's no doubt that Anakin and Padme's relationship, as flawed and unhealthy as it was, had one of the greatest impacts on the entire Star Wars galaxy, and that just those two people alone getting together changed the course of history for billions and billions of people, right? Mm-hmm. But all I have to say, man, is I love you, I know. And that already makes Han and Leia's relationship so much better. But no, man, the scene in Return of the Jedi when Leia's dressed as a bounty hunter and she goes and rescues Han, and Han, doesn't know what's going on, but it's Leia. I mean, that moment right there where he falls into her arms, it's just kind of this opposite reversal of roles where he is the one that needs protection and help, and Leia is there for him. Oh my gosh, I love that scene.
Super
that
touching.
Scene so much.
Super touching.
It's so good. And then at the end, when he thinks that Leia and Luke are getting together, and he's like, I get it. Yeah, no, but I mean, he's like, he gets it, and he says, hey, I'll give you your space. When he gets back, I won't be here. Like, dude, the progression of Han and his evolving relationship with Leia is one of the best in film history, in my opinion. I love it so much.
Well, when you think about it now with the sequel trilogy, them two getting together has kind of messed up some other stuff with their kids.
Yeah. And man, when we're gonna actually find out what happened, dude, I cannot wait.
Thursday, it better be. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I definitely have to sign off on Han and Leia as well. And I think this mostly because I like their characters a lot more in that they, relatively speaking, stayed who they are throughout the relationship. And for me, when you watch episode 3 versus episode 2 and 1 with Padme's character, she starts off with like kind of this strong mindset, and then as soon as she realizes she's in love, she becomes this kind of just follower of Anakin. You go and watch
Does she?
yes, she keeps. The only thing is that she keeps on saying is, "I love you so much." Then are you blinded by love? Yeah, I'm sorry. You brought up the whole thing about the dialogue being really cheesy between them, but I can't take that out of it.
Okay, but at that point, she is pregnant. What do you expect her? You expect her to go fight and endanger her child? She tells Anakin she loves him right at the beginning of the Battle of Geonosis, and she goes, she saves herself. She doesn't just Anakin come save me. She goes, she kicks the tiger cat rat thing off the thing. She's got her own blaster. She's taking droids out. She's not just following him around.
The next film, she doesn't do anything.
She's pregnant.
She barely does anything in the Senate either. She just stays quiet.
All right, so dude,
leave,
this is what ruins it for me for Anakin and Padme. It's in Attack of the Clones when Anakin goes on a killing spree and he kills all of those Tusken Raiders and the kids, and then he confesses to Padme and says, I killed them all, women and children. I slaughtered them like animals. And
people make mistakes.
And, yeah, they're there, Anakin. Everything's okay. Like that alone, that scene alone.
I'll tell you what.
Says,
Andrew, it's funny that you brought up that scene. Have you guys ever noticed when that scene happens, which I completely agree is absolutely mental. Padme agrees with that. Like, and then in Revenge of the Sith, she's like, "I heard you kill kids." It's like, yeah, I did that in the last film. I've done it now, but I also did that last film.
But those are Tusken Raiders. They don't count.
You're
They're
like
not real
typical. That's like typical women, isn't it? You just can't never know where you're coming or going. Can I kill kids? Can I not kill kids? Like, come on. But yeah. So there's when he's actually killing the Sand People. Have you ever noticed the Qui-Gon Jinn in the background?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
It's like, Anakin, stop!
Yeah.
Like,
it's
cool. I like little things like that. It's really cool.
Yeah,
Just trying to tell him.
Okay, man. So this is okay, guys. Excellent stuff. I love it. I just had to ask that question. Okay, so this is going to be probably our last topic of discussion for this episode. And again, I'm going to have to remove a few of these things on our outline. But I want to talk about, and this is going to lead into who we think the chosen one is, but who has the more compelling journey. All right. So you have the hero's journey of Luke and the anti-hero's journey of Anakin Skywalker. So which story is more compelling? Which one is more impactful to each of you personally? All right. So I'm not saying, which one was portrayed better on screen or anything like that, but which one do you guys maybe identify more with, or which one means more to you guys? So Formal, why don't you go first?
I would have to say Luke, and it's just, for me, it goes in a complete circle. Like, you see him as basically this country bumpkin on Tatooine, and
that's a great way to say it, man.
Yeah, and he goes from that to just a good guy with a a gun, and then he progresses to using a lightsaber, then does it fairly well, learning more ways of the Force, and then at the end of it, he becomes a true Jedi. Whereas, like, Anakin's story, as Mikey said, is a very tragic one. That's pretty much all it is. It doesn't, at least for me, in comparison, it just doesn't have as much weight, at least with me.
Yeah, no, I'm not talking the full circle of Anakin starting in episode 1. Because, Ryan, I see those gears turning in your head. I'm not saying episode 1 through episode 6. I'm saying the journey that Anakin takes from episode 1 to 3 and the journey that Luke takes from 4 to 6. All right? Formal, I like what you're saying. Mikey, why don't you go next?
Okay, well, even if we're just sticking with 1, 2, 3, I have to go with Anakin because you said who has the more compelling story. And that, even though it's a tragic story, it is more compelling. You take this kid, not even a country bumpkin or whatever you called him, he's a slave. He's a slave. He has nothing. And then you rip him out of that. You take him away from his mom, and everyone around
Which is Qui-Gon's fault.
Which is Qui-Gon's fault. But all these space wizards are now telling him, guess what? You're going to be the best. You, little kid, you're the one. You're the one that's going to save us all. So that's not going to make you feel, A, a little bit of pressure, but then B, a little bit too sure of yourself. Like, no, I'm the chosen one. Check me out. So that's when we get that cocky Anakin kid in episode 2 where he says things like, oh, I'm supposed to be more powerful than this. Obi-Wan's holding me back. I'm ahead of him. I already rival Master Yoda as a swordsman and blah, 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 all this stuff. Hey, hold on. Because Luke is a whiny kid, too. Or at least in A New Hope.
Yeah, in A New Hope,
I was going into Tashi Station to pick up some power converters. Let me go play with my friends. So, all right, all the Skywalkers whine. Okay, it's a familial trait.
Yeah, it sure is.
Anyways,
that's a good call out.
So then he gets his arm lopped off, and then he becomes the hero of the Clone Wars. Like if we're sticking to the movies, but still, even in Episode 3, he has evolved into this hardened guy. He's got the super cool scar on his face now. And he's that opening shot of Episode 3. You can just see that he is so much more comfortable with his abilities. He's so much. He's really coming to his own as a Jedi, he's able to go on this. He's in his element. Perfect way to put it. And then the tragedy happens where he has those same dreams he has about his mom, or he has them about Padme, and then he just everything for her. It's all for her because that's his great love, and he just ruins the galaxy because of it, and then ends up losing the one thing he wanted to save because of his own actions. So it's compelling. It's tragic. But you're rooting for him the whole time. But even though we already knew, that's Darth Vader, I was still like, come on, no, don't. Like I was heartbroken. The scene where he's sitting in the Jedi Council chambers and she's in their apartment, and there's no dialogue except for Palpatine saying, if the Jedi kill me, any chance of saving her is gone. And I think that was well acted. He's got a tear that falls.
That's one of my favorite scenes in all of the prequels. Is that scene you were talking about? Yeah.
There's no dialogue, but you can just see it in his head working. Like I can't lose her. I have to do this. Yeah. So I pick Anakin.
Okay, Ryan, I still see those gears turning, so I'm gonna let you have the last word, but I'm gonna go third to last. Okay, so. The one that is more compelling for me, and it's probably just because my love of Star Wars began with the originals, is Luke's journey. And so the reason is because I've always admired Luke's journey, because when I put myself in Luke's shoes, I always feel that if I were to take his journey, I would get up to the point to where he's in the throne room with Emperor Vader, and I would succumb. I'd be like, okay, I'm coming over. Make room. Here I am. I'm here. But Luke says no. And the moment he says no, and the moment he throws his lightsaber, and the moment, he really denies the Emperor and sacrifices his life, because, I only assume that he knows that he's probably going to get killed now. And what that does to save his dad and redeem his dad is so incredible. But that for that specific part in his journey alone, the moment where he is finally faced for his final test, what does he do? He overcomes. And so it is as compelling as Anakin's story and journey is. I would side with Luke. All right, Ryan. Final word.
Go ahead, Ryan.
Cool. So it's gonna be a weird answer because Luke is like probably my favorite character in Star Wars. Ooh. So I'm looking forward to seeing him in The Last Jedi. But I would go with Anakin in regards to like compelling and relatable, because I think that as much as I like Luke's journey, I feel like Anakin's one is a lot more complex and relatable in the sense of the fact that we all want to try and do the right thing, and sometimes no matter how hard you try and do the right thing, sometimes it's the wrong thing. Does that make sense? And I think for Anakin's journey quite a bit, it's like he wants to be the good guy, he wants to do the good thing, and he thinks what he is doing is the good thing, and then he gets manipulated by Palpatine to think that he's doing the good thing, and like Obi-Wan says to him, it's like he's lost, and he is lost, but it's all stemmed from from wanting to do something good, and then that's always like what Yoda says to him, like he's on the path to the dark side because he is letting his emotions carry him. But it's like anyone has ever been that thing where your emotions get the better of you, and that's something that's happened with that. But with Luke, it's like he does have that, and his story is interesting in different ways, which is why he's my favorite character. But it's not as in depth as Anakin's, and then Anakin's story it then turns so tragic after trying to do something that he was only just trying to save the person that he loved. I think that we would all do that, where Luke doesn't really have that. He's, you know what I mean, he's doing a lot for himself. Admittedly, I agree with his reasonings, but Anakin's doing it for someone else, and I think if we were all in that situation, we'd all probably do the same thing for the person that we love. So.
Yeah, those are good points
for my wife.
Yeah, those are good points. Oh, jeez. Oh, my gosh. We're all going to pretend like we just didn't hear that.
You know. It's a good thing we're not
Oh, my
Jedi.
gosh. As long as they're Tusken Raiders, right? Oh, my god.
Yeah. Sand people, kids.
Good grief. Okay, guys, this is rapid fire, right? And I'll start. Who is the chosen one? I say Luke. Ryan, go next.
I say Luke as well.
Mikey?
It's Anakin.
Formal?
Luke, I guess, yeah.
I'll take you all on. It's Anakin.
Okay, this is going to be the last thing for today's episode, and it was a little bit more extensive, but just because of where we're at on time right now and how long we've been recording, we're just going to do just one, okay? So if there is one thing about each of the trilogies that you guys could change, what would it be? All right, so one thing from the originals, one thing from the prequels. All right, who wants to go first? All right, Mikey, go ahead. Go ahead.
All right. Prequel trilogy, I would have had Darth Maul be the Vader. Like, he be the villain throughout all three.
Yep.
He could still kill Qui-Gon, and then instead of Count Dooku, it would have been him, and then he could have even bested Obi-Wan, and Anakin still kill him, but just would have had Darth Maul, because I feel like the reason that the original trilogy, they had that threat the whole time was Vader. Even though Palpatine's pulling the strings, it's still Vader. So if we had Maul throughout the entire prequel trilogy, I feel like that would have been better. And then, something to change about the original trilogy. I would have had Boba Fett do more and not go out like a punk.
Woo! Nice. All right, Ryan, what about you?
What would I change? That's a really hard one because I love them. Like, I love them so much. You're asking me it's like asking me what would I change about my girlfriend? Do you know what I mean? It's like not too much.
But you wouldn't kill any kids for her.
What would I change? So, in the original ones, I don't know. I'm really struggling. Can you go back to me? Because honestly, I love it that much. I've never sat back and thought I would change this stuff. Like Attack of the Clones, I would change that film completely from beginning to end. The CGI. Okay, in the originals, the prequels, the CGI overload is just insane. Like that needed to be wound down. They needed to do more practical effects massively, because especially in Attack of the Clones, where it's in a bit more of an early date where the CGI isn't great, but yet George Lucas is just it's too much. So that's what I would change in the prequels, and then in the originals I would change the fact that George Lucas did what he did to these things, and we can just get the old ones back instead, and with all the crappy CGI that you added to the
Yeah, no, that's good, man, that's good. Okay, Formal, I'll give you the last
fun fact.
Yeah. Wait, go ahead.
Fun fact: did you guys know that they did not make a single piece of clone trooper armor for the prequels?
Are you serious?
All the
It's
clone
all
troopers
CGI?
were CGI. Yeah,
Serious?
they did not make a single
Doesn't
suit of
surprise
armor
me.
for any clone troopers.
Man,
ridiculous.
yeah, that's rough, man. That's rough. Okay, Formal, you're gonna get the last word, so I'm gonna go next. What I would change about the prequel trilogy is how Padme dies and everything that. It just, nothing about the story makes sense, especially the fact that she dies in childbirth and that Leia has memories of her mom. Like there was not enough continuity in the death of Padme, and ultimately, and just ultimately how she died. And so it it wasn't as heartbreaking as I wanted it to be. Like I just didn't feel it. And when I saw the movie for the first time, I didn't feel it the way that I wanted to. And so I would just change how that was constructed. And then Mikey, I agree with you, man. The one thing I would change, I want Boba Fett to be a more impactful character and more involved within the story. And yeah, that's what I would change. So, Formal, you've got the last word, man.
In the prequels, similar to what you were saying, it has to do with continuity. In that I feel with Revenge of the Sith that they really pushed a lot to tie into the originals into that last film. Mm-hmm. Like I think that they just flushed a lot of it. And don't get me wrong, I like it at times. Sometimes I wasn't the biggest fan of it, but I definitely don't like the really shortened, also the space battle scene and how we progressed so far between what happened in episode 2 versus episode 3. I think like for example in the Clone Wars TV show, which more of that type of stuff was shown. I don't know how, to be honest with you, but I want it just so much happened in between Clone Wars and Attack of the Clones, and Sith, just so like that, and then they flushed so much into that. So that for me bothered me a little bit. And then honestly, similar to Ryan, there is very little that I would change in the originals. But it does throw me off, the whole potential love romance between Luke and Leia, and then they're twins.
Oh, yeah.
It's kind of just like...
We can take that out.
No, man, I love that. Oh, my gosh, I love that.
It's still weird.
Maybe they should have just never kissed.
Oh, here you go. As well, sorry for taking out in the prequels. Just sorry to form of what you mentioned earlier. The no that could be taken out.
Oh yeah, you can take that out too.
Yeah.
Oh, you guys, this has been an excellent discussion, man. Everyone who's watching this YouTube
Good
video, we hope you guys have enjoyed our episode today and just our discussion of everything and all things Star Wars. And so I am Andre with Backseat Directors. You can find the podcast on iTunes and any other place. And why don't you guys go ahead and give your plugs on how the viewers can find out what you guys are doing on in your own time. So, Mikey, go first.
You can. I'm from the Big Screen Breakdown podcast I do with my wife. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all that stuff. Oh, and Stardust, where we do 30-second reviews. Now it's a newish kind of app. At Big Screen Pod. And we're on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, Podbean, all that stuff. So come have a listen. We like to banter.
Formal?
I'm at The Formal Review on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. I write reviews. I do live tweets when I watch movies, and I review franchises, which is what I'm doing now for the Star Wars. So I need to watch 5, 6, and 7. So only 3 more to go. But you can also check out my reviews there, but also check it out on Box Office Buzz. That's Buzz with 1 Z, and Film Hype HQ. And I also take requests if anybody wants it. So hit that up.
Ryan?
Yeah.
Cool. I'm Ryan from Life of Films. Pretty simple. Just head over to lifeoffilms.com, which is a movie blog which I write on. My friend Simon writes on. Mikey, you've got something there. Andre from Formal Review
Star Wars
also
related.
something on there. Andre from the Backseat Directors. Oh wait, I'm still waiting on something from you. But
Andre's more of a verbal guy.
but yeah, that's cool. So come on over, say hi.
Gentlemen, this has been an excellent episode. Again, thank you everyone for watching. We are Take 4, and join us next time for our review of The Force Awakens and our expectations and hopes for The Last Jedi. See you guys!
Audio Jungle.